Like, comment, and subscribe, because today we open the vault on one of Trinidad's quietest billionaires. Once upon a time in San Juan, Trinidad in the 1940s, a boy named Arthur Lok Jack was born, not into royalty, not into oil money, but into something far more dangerous. A hardworking Chinese Trini family with big dreams and no time for laziness. They didn't come to Trinidad for carnival. They came to build. And Arthur? He watched. He learned. He hustled. Quietly. While other kids were playing football, Arthur was probably counting snacks at the corner shop, asking questions like, why are we importing everything we eat? And in that simple question lay the seed of a Caribbean empire. Fast forward to 1974. A young businessman with a bold vision starts a company called Associated Brands Industries Limited, or ABIL. It began with Sunshine Snacks, Charles Chocolates, and the idea that Trinas didn't need no Hershey's when they had sugar cake pride. He wasn't just selling snacks, he was feeding a region. From Port of Spain to Panama to Guyana, we Caribbean people don't just eat. We snack with rhythm. Arthur probably never said that, but he could have. A bill exploded across borders like a seasoned masquerader on Juve morning, spreading joy, sweetness, and salt all over the place. And the genius wasn't just in the flavor. It was in the distribution. While other businessmen were busy chasing foreign deals, Arthur was quietly building a snack army with supply lines, warehouses, and fleets like a Caribbean version of Amazon. Except you could eat everything. But Arthur didn't just feed bellies, he fed minds. In the late 1980s, he co-founded what would become the Arthur Lok Jack Graduate School of Business, the top business school in the Caribbean. He said, we can't build Caribbean companies with foreign minds alone. So he created a place where Caribbean leaders could be trained to think global, but act local, where CEOs were made, not imported. He was a quiet giant with real prime ministers seeking his advice and entire economies shifting when he moved his pen. At one point, they say if Lok Jack bought shares in your company, you'd better get your suit pressed because money was about to move. But here's where the story gets mysterious. Arthur never chased headlines, never gave TED Talks. Arthur moved like a ghost with a platinum credit card. Why? Well, if you know Trinidad, you know, when you get too rich and too visible, somebody might just want to hold you for a little something. In the early 2000s, during the wave of kidnappings, Arthur scaled back his appearances, tightened his security, and focused on legacy, not lifestyle. He lived in gated estates, traveled with plainclothes security, and drove unbranded high-end SUVs, the kind of vehicle where you're not sure if it's a businessman inside or a government minister. Now, let's talk about the big question people always whisper about behind their doubles. So, how much money Arthur Lok Jack really had? The truth is, he never bragged. He never posted yacht pics. He wasn't on Instagram showing off the new Benz or filming motivational quotes from a pool in Tobago. So we don't know the exact number, but we can make an educated guess. Based on what we know, Arthur was the founder and chairman of Associated Brands Investments Limited, ABIL, home to Sunshine Snacks, Charles Chocolates, and a Caribbean childhood's worth of empty cheese balls bags. He helped build Kiss Baking Company, had real estate, sat on boards, advised governments, and most likely bought land before it was cool. His snacks weren't just regional hits. They were exported internationally. That means serious recurring revenue, not just small business by the roundabout money. So no, he wasn't worth a lil 5 million TTD. If you're picturing serious wealth, the kind that doesn't sweat when gas go up, you're on the right track. Conservative estimate, $250 million USD. But realistically, with decades of growth, ownership stakes, and investments, his net worth may have reached to $400 million USD. That's Caribbean quiet money, not TikTok rich, but let's build a factory in St. Lucia before breakfast rich. This wasn't man by watch for vibes money. This was I'll fund a business school so you could learn to buy your own watch money. He never made the Forbes list. But if you were serious about business in Trinidad, if you ever tried to move real capital or set up regional distribution, you passed through Lok Jack's shadow. And that shadow didn't come with strobe lights or paparazzi. It came with NDAs and results. Because Arthur didn't just make money. He made systems, schools, and standards. And let's be honest, how many people could turn a cheese curl into a legacy? He married Glenda Tong Lok Jack, a graceful powerhouse in her own right. More than a partner, a builder. Together, they didn't just donate money. They built institutions. Glenda herself served as a director of ABIL, not just in title, but in vision. A quiet strategist who helped shape the company's backbone while staying out of the limelight. They were married for over 40 years. A partnership rooted in respect, legacy, and quiet impact. They had 3 sons, Gregory, Christopher, and Nicholas, all of whom became involved in the family business, Associated Brands Investments Limited. No dynasty reality shows. No Instagram flexing. No trust fund tantrums on TikTok. Arthur raised them with the same quiet code he lived by. Build. Don't boast. He avoided the trap so many Caribbean elites fall into. Showing off today and leaving nothing for tomorrow. Arthur played the long game. Generational wealth with cultural grace. Arthur Lok Jack passed away in 2020 in the middle of a world crisis. No state funeral. No parade. But make no mistake, Trinidad lost a nation builder. He left behind a food empire, a graduate school, thousands of jobs, and a business blueprint built on taste, trust, and timelessness. He may not have made the Forbes list, but ask anyone who knows business in the Caribbean and they'll tell you. If you wanted to move real capital in Trinidad, you passed through Lok Jack's shadow. So if this story inspired you, if it made you proud to be Caribbean, if it reminded you that power doesn't always need a microphone, hit that like button, drop a comment with another Caribbean giant you want us to cover, and subscribe to stay in the loop for more powerful stories. Because Caribbean excellence isn't just about carnival and cricket. It's also about quiet kings like Arthur Lok Jack. He didn't build for applause. He built for something deeper. For a Caribbean that could walk on its own. Not walk behind aid. Not march to someone else's rhythm. But walk forward on its own 2 feet. With its own industries, its own brands, its own thinkers. He imagined a Caribbean where we didn't wait for handouts, but handed out jobs. Where we didn't just import convenience. We manufactured resilience. He wanted a future where a young engineer from Cuba didn't have to migrate to Toronto to feel like his degree mattered. Where a woman in Arima could start a business and scale it without ever needing to sound foreign to get funding. A Caribbean where your ambition didn't expire the moment your country's budget did. He built factories so that workers didn't just earn a living. They could take pride in what they built. He built distribution systems so we weren't always asking, when the next container coming from Miami? He built brands that became part of the Caribbean identity, right there next to parang and the phrase, "are coming now." For grandchildren who would inherit values, not just vaults. Arthur Lok Jack didn't just leave behind assets. He left behind anchors. His children were raised in abundance, but not arrogance. They were taught that wealth wasn't about what you drive. It was about what drives you. No tabloid scandals. No flying to Dubai for carnival. No legacy kids showing off their father's name in gold chain fonts. Instead, they inherited something rarer. A standard. A way of moving in the world that said, earn your name. Then protect it. He didn't believe in raising heirs who sat on piles of money. He believed in raising stewards who could grow what he started and guard it like culture. And if any of them got too fresh, well, you could bet Arthur gave them one quiet look that said, "You know how hard I work for this, right?" And that was that. For a region that deserves dignity, not dependency. He saw it plain as day, that while we waved flags and sang anthems, our economies were still, well, colonized on the inside. Still importing milk powder. Still waiting on consultants with British accents to tell us how to manage our own sugarcane. Still treating foreign development partners like saviors. Even when they couldn't pronounce chiguanas. Arthur wanted better. He believed regional intelligence was our greatest resource. So he trained it, funded it, hired it. He launched programs that gave bright minds a chance to shine here, not only when they reached Boston or London. He backed community initiatives, youth programs, agriculture training, even the arts. Because he knew a society isn't just built on GDP. It's built on people with options. But his absence? It rippled. not in the trending tabs, but in real places. Factories, where workers paused, remembering the man whose name wasn't on the gate, but whose vision paid their salaries. Graduate schools where professors spoke his name not with ceremony, but with gratitude. Living rooms where kids tore open bags of sunshine snacks, unaware they were holding a piece of regional industrial history in their hands. Supermarkets where Charles chocolates still lined the shelves. Sweet reminders that not all legacy has to be bitter. Boardrooms where professionals, many of them once students in his program, still strategize with the confidence he planted in them. Balance sheets, where the stability he brought to local business continues to ripple through joint ventures, family firms, and major mergers. And in the Caribbean imagination itself, because before him, regional manufacturing empire sounded like a dream. After him, it became normal, because he didn't just leave behind wealth. He left behind a manufacturing giant built on Caribbean flavors and logistics so precise, it would make FedEx blush. A graduate school that rivals the best in the world, but speaks with a Trini accent and understands the rhythm of the region. Thousands of professionals trained to be more than employees, trained to be architects of legacy, a blueprint for economic resilience, independence, and self-respect. He proved that we could build local, taste global, and still call it ours. He never made the cover of Forbes. He didn't need to, because in Trinidad, if you wanted to do real business, you passed through Lok Jack's shadow. And that shadow wasn't a threat. It was a standard, a quiet force that whispered, come good or don't come at all. So if this story stirred something in you, pride, wonder, ambition, if it made you sit up a little straighter, then share it, because not every hero needs a cape. Some wear suits and walk softly. Some don't trend, they transform. Some don't beg for attention. They build legacies you can taste. Some whisper where others shout. Some move behind the scenes, but leave footprints no flood could wash away. This is Caribbean brilliance. This is legacy. This is Arthur Lok Jack. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment with the next Caribbean icon we should profile. And above all, don't just talk. Build. Build quietly. Build wisely. Build for generations. Because the real kings, they don't shout. They build.